You're listening to JFDI with the Two Lauras, the podcast for social media freelancers who want to get more visible, streamline their systems, master their mindset, and make more sales. I'm Laura Davis, and alongside my co-host Laura Moore, we're on a mission to make working as a freelancer easier, because working from home shouldn't mean working alone.
Welcome back to the show. I am recording this in my very hot kitchen with a fan on. So if the sound is a bit more dodgy than normal, please accept my apologies. But if you're in the UK, you will fully understand why I need the fan. I am literally melting. And to add to that, I dislocated my knee last night. So I currently have my feet up, resting. I can't even go outside and sunbathe because it's too hot. So yeah. Anyway, that's my life history. Let's get on with the show. We've had quite a few conversations recently with our members about a topic that really divides people. And so I wanted to dive into it a little bit today. Now, you might be surprised that I'm the one doing this episode, because this topic is something that Laura Davis often talks about. And no matter what call we're on, she will always start talking about niching. Now, I want to talk a little bit about niching, but not in the way that Laura Davis normally talks about it. So if you are new to the podcast or you're new to our world, you will probably not know that we are big advocates for niching your business down so that you're really speaking to one type of business owner, one type of industry, etc., when you're trying to find clients. And we often talk about this on calls. If somebody says to us that they serve small businesses, we get the ick immediately, and we will always fire back with telling people that means that you're basically trying to speak to everybody, because I would say 99.9% of businesses, especially in the UK, would consider themselves a small business. So it's not really a niche. And niching is really important for a few different reasons. Niching is important because it helps with trying to connect with people. So it helps you to create content that really speaks to your ideal client. It means that you are seen as an expert or a leader within that industry, so that when somebody is looking to hire a freelancer, they know exactly who to go to. And if somebody asks for a recommendation, they easily know who to recommend, right? So if somebody asked us for a recommendation for somebody who helps people within the trades industry, for example, we will immediately know who in our membership can do that. Similarly, if we had somebody ask us who is an expert who can help me create content on LinkedIn, we would immediately know who those people are because they're very clear in their messaging, right? So it helps you to become somebody who can be referred by others when you have this niche. Now, a lot of times people will try to steer away from having a niche for a few reasons. And the biggest one, and this is one that we hear from our members all the time, especially new members when they come into the membership and maybe they haven't had these conversations with us about niching. People will always say, yeah, but I don't know who I want to work with yet. And I want to have variety, and I don't really want to just niche down. I love working with lots of different types of businesses, all of this sorts of things. Or I want to try out lots of different businesses for a year before I then niche down. And that is where people go wrong. So we are not ever saying, when we're talking about niching, we're never telling you to niche down your business. This isn't a business model that we're talking about necessarily. Now, of course, it could be. It could be that you say, actually, I'm only going to work with florists, but it might not be that specific. What we're talking about when we're talking about niching is we're talking about your messaging, okay? And it's niching your messaging. Therefore, you are niching your marketing, not your business. You can still work with anybody, literally anybody. But if you look at our messaging, you will always see that we're talking to social media managers. Yeah? If you're a social media manager, you know that we're talking to you. If you know a social media manager, you will know to recommend them to us. But that doesn't mean that we only help social media managers. We have people in our membership who are ads managers, who are email marketers, who call themselves Instagram managers maybe, or Instagram trainers. We have people who class themselves as LinkedIn ghostwriters or LinkedIn coaches. So they don't necessarily all call themselves social media managers. They don't necessarily all fall into that bracket. And if they're an email marketer, they're not even a social media manager, right? So we're not niching down who we're working with or who we're helping necessarily. We're niching down the messaging so that people who we really want to work with understand that we're speaking to them And other people will still become intrigued and be like, okay, I know that they help social media managers, so I wonder if what they're talking to them about is actually relevant to me. Or they'll see our content and they'll be like, oh, I really like the way that these people approach things. Or they'll hear from other people how good the membership is and all of those sorts of things. And despite not being a social media manager, they will still get in touch and still want to join the membership. The same is true of you. So even if you were to niche your business down and you're only speaking to one type of business, it doesn't mean that you can't work with other people, and it doesn't mean that they won't still come to you. That's really important. But what I want to talk to you about today on the niching side is more about the messaging. Okay, so this isn't about who you're going to work with. This is about the messaging. Now, if you have been a social media manager for a while, or if you've been in the social media space for a while, I can guarantee you have told somebody, a client probably, at least once in your life that they have to be consistent. There's always messaging everywhere, isn't there, about how it doesn't matter how often you post, it's about consistency. And I think oftentimes people think that the consistency means you have to show up every Wednesday at 10 o'clock, or you have to post images that are always using this filter, or you always have to wear the same top in your content, right? And all of those things are consistency, of course. But the biggest thing that people miss is the consistency in their messaging. And if your messaging is consistent, then people really understand if you're for them or not, and if they can recommend you to other people or not, and you become memorable. So if one time you are creating content and your messaging is all small businesses, and then the next time your messaging is about florists, and then the next post a few weeks later, you're speaking about how you helped a carpenter, and then the next case study you drop is about working with a business coach. It's so confusing because your messaging isn't clear to the reader. But also, this is where, if you're consistent in your messaging, the algorithm understands who you are talking to and who to show your content to. If you're not consistent and you're not specific in your messaging, your content will die. It will die because people don't understand that you're speaking to them, and it's the humans we want to engage with our content, right? And if people don't understand the content's for them, they're not going to engage. But it will also die because the algorithms will literally be like, I don't know what this is. I don't know who I should show this to. Therefore, I'm just not going to show it to anyone because I know what that other post over there is. So I'm going to show that instead. So we have to try and be really clear in all of our messaging to help humans understand who we're talking to and what we're about, but also to ensure that the algorithms that serve our content up are able to do that. This is why if we take it back a step and we think about from an SEO perspective, right? If you're trying to become discoverable on Google or in AI, we are very specific about what we want to be discovered for, right? We've always known that we have to have specific keywords in our content to have our content be brought up in a Google search, right? We're very specific with that. We know the words we have to put in there. And if we don't know, we go and try and find out, or we make our best guess. So I'm just going to pick a really random example to explain this. If we were writing a blog because we had an ice cream company, in that blog, we would know that we have to put the words ice cream, right? It would be very clear. We have to talk about ice cream because we sell ice cream. If we're an ice cream company that only sells ice cream in Worthing, we also know we have to put Worthing in that post, right? So we're niching down our messaging by talking about ice cream in Worthing. Whereas if we were just talking about desserts and we were talking about desserts in the UK, our content isn't going to be served to the right people because the right people are the people who want to buy ice cream in Worthing. I know that's a really random example, but I think it would help you to understand that you want your content to be served to the people who are looking for it. And if you can think of your content in terms of what people are looking for when you're creating it, then it will help you to become more consistent and more niche specific with that content. Because yes, we want our content to be served to the right people. We want the algorithms to be able to do that. But we want to be able to be discovered by people who are looking for us. And these days, people can look for us on Google, in AI, but also on the social media platforms. The search functions on social media are so good right now. But nobody is going on search and going small business tips or small business Instagram ideas. They're looking for their niche. They want something that's really relevant to them. So when we're talking about niching, we'll often tell people if you can put posts out that's like this is a terrible post idea, obviously, but 5 real ideas for hairdressers, that's going to speak to hairdressers more than just 5 real ideas. And when you're really clear with that, people really understand who it is you're helping, right? So you need to be really specific. Now, you will, of course, see big accounts on Instagram, LinkedIn, etc., where their messaging isn't as specific. But most of those people have either been able to grow those big accounts because they started out really specific or because they had a viral moment. Okay. Being niche, yes, will result in a smaller audience, a smaller number of people who are maybe engaging, saving your content, etc. But it will result in a larger number of great high-paying clients and a larger number of people being able to refer you. If you think about the Instagram accounts that you remember, you will remember them for a reason. Maybe it's because they're speaking to a certain type of people. Maybe it's because they're sharing certain type of information. And the same goes for you with your messaging. And social media managers often try to be really wide and really broad because they want to appeal to a wide range of people. But as I said before, that means that you then are speaking to nobody. And let's be clear here, you don't need to appeal to a wide range of people. How many clients can you realistically work with? 5 maybe? Although, to be honest, that really gives me the ick. I would max out probably at 3 high-paying clients. So do I need a massive audience? Do I need to reach a huge amount of people for 3 clients? Absolutely not. I just need to reach the right type of people who've got the right budget, the right mindset, the right assets. They're in an industry that interests me maybe, or they're on a platform that I want to work on. So by niching down your messaging and being consistent with that, you're going to help people to find you and help people to hire you. It also means that you're able to put your prices up because you're not just speaking to those small businesses in your local area who can't afford you because they've got loads of overheads and they just have a tiny little shop maybe. So it's all about thinking, who do I want to work with and how can I speak to them? A lot of people don't put this work in. They don't start thinking about this. And they do, as I said, spend that first 12 months maybe faffing about, trying lots of different things out. But all that means is that if you don't do this now, you're going to have to do it in 12 months' time, and it's going to be much harder to unpick. It means that you've got 12 months now where you're not working with your dream clients. And I said this to a member who just joined recently. If you want to put it off for 12 months, you're just going to end up in the same hole that you are today because your messaging is still not going to be clear 12 months from today, and you're going to have to do this exercise then. So what you want to think about, and grab a pen and paper, who specifically do you want to work with? And this might be a case of sticking a pin in it. I want you to think as narrow as you can. Now, I'm not saying thinking about working with left-handed unicyclists. That's way too narrow. But you could be more specific by saying that you want to work with the hospitality industry, for example, right? So think niche but broad, niche but not too niche. So maybe it's because they're in a specific industry. Maybe it's because they all have a specific problem. Maybe they all want a specific outcome. Ideally, it would be all of those things. So you would be able to speak to a specific industry who's trying to have a specific outcome and has a specific problem that's stopping them from achieving that. But the problem by not being specific with who you want to work with means that you can't get your messaging specific. So when you think of your niche, let's say that your niche is hotels, you know that your messaging needs to help people to get bookings for their hotel. Whereas if your niche was jewelers, you know that your messaging needs to be that they want to sell more jewelry. So they don't want bookings, they want sales. And by not being specific about who you're working with, just those tiny little nuances of your messaging mean that people don't understand that you're for them. So you need to build in this consistency of messaging from the tiny little nitty-gritty of whether they want bookings or sales, whether they want bookings or leads or sales. There's all these different tiny little nuances between different industries. But you want to think about, who is it that I want to work with and what language would they have? So we're thinking about, what's the industry? What is the messaging or the terminology that industry would use? And then we want to think about, what are the problems that those people are having? So is it that they can't get more sales, or is it that they're getting the wrong kind of bookings? Or is it they're getting, like maybe, for example, they have software and they get people to join their software, but those people don't stay. So maybe it's a retention problem, and you want to create content that helps people to understand why they should not only sign up to the platform, but why they should stay using it. So maybe the SaaS kind of industry that you're trying to reach out to, their problem is not just that they want more sales. Their problem is that they want to increase retention. Once you understand who the people are that you're trying to speak to, you can really understand what the problems are that those people are trying to solve and the outcomes that they're looking for. And then your messaging can become really specific And trust me when I say it is so much easier to create content when you know who you're talking to. It's so much easier to think of ideas because you already know what the problems are. You already know what they want to get. And when you go into Claude or ChatGPT or whatever, and you're asking for content ideas, hopefully you're not just going in and just saying, give me some content ideas. Hopefully you have trained your platforms and you know how to use AI better. But it's got the context, so it knows what are the problems that these people are having. So you might go into Claude and say, I need some content ideas for SaaS companies who are struggling with their retention and they want to increase their retention before the end of December. And then you'll get much more specific content ideas than if you just went in there and said, I need some content ideas. So being specific with who you're talking about helps you to become recognizable, memorable. It helps people to actually find you, and it helps you to get those content ideas out of your head way easier and create them. So whenever you hear Laura and I harping on about niching, I want you to just sit and just think, hang on, this isn't about who I work with necessarily. I can still work with whoever I want. I'm in charge of my business, but I also need to be in charge of my messaging. And when we're talking about niching, we are talking about niching your messaging and your marketing. So you're speaking to one type of people and you're trying to attract that type of person. That doesn't mean that you can't change it. This is not a puppy. You don't have to keep it for life. This is just your messaging. I really hope this episode has helped to put a bit of clarity why you need to niche down your business, because it is so much about that messaging and it is so much about the consistency. And I really hope that after this episode, you can go and have a look at your messaging and just have a look at your Instagram maybe and just see, who am I talking to? And if your content isn't speaking to who you think your niche is, maybe that's a sign to just rethink your niche or rethink your messaging. And if you're listening to this thinking, yeah, my target audience is small businesses, or, oh, my target audience is female-owned businesses, let me tell you, that is not a niche. Come into the membership and chat with us about this, or come into our DMs. Laura Davis is your niche person. She loves chatting about this stuff. So really, she should have recorded this podcast. But seeing as I'm sitting in my lounge with my fan and my knee up, I thought it was a good time to come on and share this. I really hope you've enjoyed this episode. Come and chat with us. We're always on social media and we will be back sometime soon.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of JFDI with the two Lauras. If you want more support, strategy and systems to run your social media business, we send exclusive content to our email list almost every day. You can sign up at thetwolauras.com/emails. And make sure to follow us on Instagram at thetwolauras and visit our website, thetwolauras.com, for more advice and support. Thank you so much for being part of our community, and we'll see you on socials.